Chris, I would start taping and being quiet.
You're watching HCAM TV.
Good evening and welcome to the gathering. I'm Terry Malisi and I want to welcome you this evening. How's everybody? Good, I hope, especially during this pandemic, although things are starting to open up, so that's a good sign. And I'd like to say hi to Mike Terosian, production coordinator. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Terry. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excited about tonight's dinner.
And why is that?
Well, first off, it's a taste of Italy.
Yes.
That's number one.
Yes.
Number two, though, I am looking forward to this dessert. I saw the ingredients ahead of time. I've never seen it put together, and I'm just so curious. I'm looking forward to dessert.
Awesome. Well, lucky for you, we start with the dessert.
So can you just let everyone know what we're having for dinner tonight? What's on the menu?
Yep, as Mike mentioned, this is a taste of Italy. And as you all know, I'm Italian, so this is really hitting close to home. Our menu for salad, we're going to be having a Caprese Tower. For dinner, shrimp Fra Diavolo. And then dessert, we're having individual grape cakes. Now, I'll be starting with the dessert, so it has time to cook and set. And as you can see, we have muffin tins here. And although they're called individual grape cakes, you could also say, well, you know, those look like grape muffins to me, but they're really Italian individual grape cakes. So the ingredients what we have here is 1.5 cups and 1 tablespoon of flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of unsalted butter. I have 2/3 cup of sugar and 2 tablespoons divided. I have 2 eggs and I have 1¼ pound of red grapes cut in half and seeded if they happen to have seeds, because you don't want to be chewing into a cake and have seeds pop in your mouth. So what you're going to do first is grease your muffin tins and coat it with flour, shake out the excess. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the flour, we're going to take the dry ingredients and mix everything together. So you've got your flour, your baking powder, your baking soda, and your salt. And then you're just going to whisk it together and get that kind of all nice and incorporated. And then what you're going to do over here, you're going to, in a mixing bowl, put your sugar, and then you're going to take your butter and you're going to beat those together and get that all nice and incorporated, light and fluffy. So you want the butter to be at room temperature. And if you've watched my shows, you know baking is not my forte, but I do give it a good go. And although sometimes my desserts come out ugly, they are quite delicious. Okay, so that looks nice and fluffy. And what we're going to do is we are going to add the eggs one at a time. So we'll get that going. And that's coming together nicely. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to add the other egg. And it's now resembling some kind of beginning of a batter. Okay. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to alternate. Oh, did I mention we had wine? I didn't mention we had wine. We have 1 cup of sweet wine. And this is what really makes these cakes an adult kind of tasting cake. It's not overly sweet. You'll be able to, although the wine does cook off through the cooking, you are able to taste a little bit of the wine. And what I'm using right here is a white Zinfandel because I prefer dry wines. I'm not so much into sweet wines. You can use any kind of sweet wine, like a Riesling would work really good. What you're going to do here is you're going to start adding the flour, half of the flour, okay? You're going to put that in the batter, mix that, get that going. That's nice and mixed. Then I'm going to turn this down a little bit and add the wine and incorporate the wine and mix that all up. And again, you know, you can really smell it. It's really nice. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to end with the flour. So you start with the flour, you add the wine, and then you add the rest of the flour. And you get that into a nice batter. Mix it all up pretty good. Okay, and as you can see, it looks pretty good, right?
It does. Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, and it smells delicious. I know
That's the only part of this job I don't like. I can't smell it.
I know. One of these days you'll have to take the camera and come over here.
Well,
Now,
as the state opens up, I'm willing to.
now you take your other teaspoon of flour and you want to coat the grapes. And this keeps them from getting way soggy in the batter when it's cooking. Okay, so you do that. And you know, if you don't want the grapes all that big, you can quarter them. But personally, I like the grapes being half because when you take a bite and you get a half a grape,
Sure.
these red grapes, these are the big, juicy, plump red grapes. It's just beautiful. So you just mix everything up.
And of course, just a reminder, if you want to try to get seedless, but if you can't, you gotta seed them, right? You can't have the seeds in there.
Absolutely. And these grapes were so beautiful. I have to tell you, they were not seeded. So for my prep, I seeded every single grape, and you know, and that's a work of art too. You know, it's all about the love you put into your cooking and your baking, right?
So this recipe here, and with all the ingredients and all the prep, it will take over an hour to do, correct?
Well, you know, if you get seedless grapes,
Yep.
not so much, Mike, because when I put these in the oven, and my oven is preheating at 375. These will only cook for 20 minutes.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So you cook them for 20 minutes, and then you, when they're done and when they look nice and brown and springy, you can tap them with your finger and kind of tell right there how they're coming along. You take them out of the oven and they sit for 5 minutes. And then you take a knife and you go around to loosen them, and then you can plate them. And I'll tell you, I made these and they're delicious even, later on. So when you get them in the muffin tins, let me put this over here, get this out of the way. You want to take your extra sugar and just drizzle the extra sugar on top of the muffins. Oh, on top of the individual crate cakes, I mean.
on top of the towers that are in the muffin tins. There you go. We know what you meant.
Yeah, that's right.
While you're doing that, I just want to remind all the viewers, we'd love to hear from you. Any comments or questions on YouTube, just type it in the chat box and I'll read them off to Terry. But also, if you look down in the descriptions, the entire recipe and directions are in the description section of this video.
Thanks, Mike. Let me get these out of the way. Okay. Then I'm going to pop these in the oven.
Now, is that like you put the rack in the center for that, or does it matter?
I don't think it matters.
Okay. I just always hear some people, oh, yeah, put them in the middle rack or put them in the bottom, put it on the top. I don't know.
And again, I'm not a baker, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I do like watching you bake because usually you don't have a knife in your hand.
And that'll be coming up later. Okay, so now it's on to the star of the show, shrimp Fra Diavolo. And this is a beautiful dish. I was actually in my 20s when I was introduced to it. And little history, there was a young boy named Miguel Peza of Naples. Now, my dad was from Naples. My mom was from Sicily. So this kind of hits right here.
Sure.
He got very ill and he survived. And when children back then got sick and survived, they were able to, the second Sunday after Easter, dress up like monks and have a parade. And this little kid was such a notorious brat. They nicknamed him Fra Diavolo, which in Italian means brother devil. So he got the nickname. He grew up. He led insurgents after French troops that were occupying Italy.
Yeah.
And ended up actually getting caught and assassinated by these French people. But this dish was actually created after him in tribute of his spicy, fiery life that he led.
Wow. So
what we have here is 1.5 pounds of shrimp, shelled and deveined, and in the shrimp, it's deveined not only on the outside, but on the inside of the shrimp, because that's the nerve vein and it's blue. And I was brought up, you take everything out of the shrimp. So there's nothing, getting in the way. So here's your nice pound of that. I'm going to turn on my fry pan. I've got my water going. I want to put a little olive oil in here. I want to put a little olive oil in the water. And I have some olive oil here, but I'll get on to this.
Okay.
Here we have 2 large cloves of garlic, red pepper flakes. Now, the red pepper flakes, here's the thing about Fra Diavolo, and it's a lot of times made with lobster or shrimp or any kind of crustacean you like. But what makes it different from all the other sauces is the red pepper flakes. And how spicy you like it also depends on how much of the crushed red pepper you're going to be putting in. So for minimal spice, you want a half to 1 teaspoon. For medium spice, 2 teaspoons. For spicy, 3 teaspoons. And for super spicy, 4 teaspoons. So what I have right here is in between medium and spicy, 2.5. So we have the red pepper flakes. I have a 1/3 cup of olive oil. I have 1 cup of dry white wine. And then I have 1 can of 28 ounces chopped tomatoes, peeled, chopped, and drained. And I have 2 tablespoons of flat leaf parsley. And if you're buying parsley, you should know that the curly parsley is for decoration. The flat parsley is for taste, and that's the flat parsley. That's where you get your flavor. And here is a half a teaspoon of dried oregano. Now, with this recipe, you can use either basil or oregano. And I love tomato sauces just with basil,
Sure.
because who doesn't love basil? But we're having that with our caprese salad, so I went with just my oregano. So I'm going to add my olive oil to the pan. I'm going to get that nice and going. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook the shrimp in with the garlic. Put this like this. I'm going to take this over here. And we will do the garlic and the red pepper flakes. So I'm going to start with the garlic. You can hear that. And I'm going to put my red pepper flakes in. And I'm just going to get that going. I don't know if you can see that, maybe not. I'm going to let this go for about a minute so that the garlic flavors the oil.
Okay.
My water's coming along. I'm going to put this over here. I'm going to trade places. I do not want to drop this. That would not be good. You really don't want your garlic to get brown.
Yeah, why is that? Tell me why that is. I know why, but tell everybody.
Because burnt garlic is, not good. I mean, you want the flavor. And there goes my shrimp. I'm just going to coat this. Now, shrimp cooks very quickly, as you all know. And most of you know how to cook shrimp, but this is a cooking show.
Please
So
tell me,
let me-
because I've seen you cook shrimp so many different ways, and shrimp is not one of my favorite dishes, and I've tried it all different ways, but I know nothing about cooking shrimp, so you're gonna have to explain it to me.
Yeah, well, shrimp cooks very quickly. You put it in the pan, and whatever you're sauteing it in doesn't take long at all. They turn nice and pink, opaque, not opaque, but light orange.
Yep.
And that's when you know they're done. So you just want to keep on, moving them around. Turn up the heat a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm going to check on the muffin. Oh, the individual grape cakes. They're coming along quite nicely, and they smell really good too. Okay, so that is cooking, and actually, we could cook this down. Usually about 10 minutes, but if you've got a high heat, maybe quicker. And as you all know, it's kind of like stir fry when you're cooking shrimp or scallops, any kind of crustacean or fish really cooks fast.
Now, is this the first time that you tried this recipe?
Oh no.
Oh, this is a regular?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, and I've been to Italy twice, and very different, trips both times, although both included Rome. But no matter where you are, you always have a plate of this. It's kind of like going to Spain and having paella, and
Okay.
that's all over the place. So, but every region has their way of doing their dishes,
Sure.
and that's the beauty about going and visiting the different provinces, because Italy is it's not only historical, but you want to go there for the cuisine.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
again, yeah, you have your bucket lists, and mine tend to be culinary.
Well, what I thought was hysterical when my lieutenant went to Venice just before it flooded. He was over there just before it flooded. They had to close everything. And he sent me a picture of a lobster with a New Hampshire tag on it.
Come on.
It came from New Hampshire.
Well, you know why that is? The lobsters over there are very different.
Yes.
They have the Mediterranean lobsters where they don't have the claws. They're like the tails. It's
Right.
the cold water lobsters that we get. We're really fortunate to be in an area where it's, an abundance of it, really.
Well, Bob, when you get a chance at the end of the show, we'll have Bob Hamilton tell you his lobster story.
Oh,
He's
most
got a great
definitely.
one for you. So with the spaghetti that you're using, can you
I am
mix it up
using,
with angel hair, or can you mix it up with
well,
linguine?
it's regular spaghetti, but um you can use linguine. You can do this with macaroni. I love spaghetti, and there are just so many variations of spaghetti.
Yeah, we all know.
I tend to really love the plain spaghetti, and not that I'm pushing Barilla, but I love their product.
Barilla does have a nice. I grew up a Prince boy with. I used to run home with Anthony on Wednesdays.
Yep. Okay, so these are almost done. I'm going to let this go a few more minutes. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the shrimp and get the sauce going, so that once I cook the spaghetti, I'll drain the spaghetti and put it right in the pan with the sauce, put all of that in my serving dish, and then top it with the shrimp.
Gotcha.
And this goes really quick. So
That's the fastest part right there.
Yeah.
Now, did you hand peel those tomatoes?
No, this was a canned,
Was
canned,
it-
and so again, cutting down on time.
Right.
You
So
know?
explain. So you didn't get the vine ripened tomatoes. You went ahead and went with the canned.
I did.
And what kind were they that you used? Not the brand.
This is
The stewed or
whole tomatoes peeled and chopped.
peeled and chopped. Yeah.
That's it. So you don't even have to, as you can see, you don't even have to chop them. Now
Right,
you
you
can
get them all different ways. You get them halved. You get them peeled.
exactly. You
Right.
get them whole.
Yep.
I've made sauces where you've got them whole and you put your hands right in the pot and squeeze the tomatoes. I mean, that's how I learned how to cook.
That's how I done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to mix them up too. I like between just your regular sauce. I like the crushed. I like the diced. But there's nothing like a whole tomato because I don't know, just something about eating pasta. And you got like some skin of tomato in there too, and it's just
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
delicious.
Yep. I've got the tale of two grandmothers. My grandmother on my mother's side worked. So when she made her spaghetti sauce, gravy, she would open up a can of tomatoes, put it on the stove, fry some garlic, onions, and that was it. She'd make some macaroni or spaghetti, and that was it. Now, she was from Sicily, but she worked, so she didn't have time to spend 3 days cooking sauce on the stove like my father's mother did.
Yep.
That's how she did hers. And so two very different sauces. I can remember going to my nanny, my mother's mother, and she'd go, Teresa, let me make you some spaghetti. And she'd make her sauce, and I'd sit there and I'd think to myself, oh, poor nanny. She doesn't have time to make sauce like Nana does. And it only came out like in the 80s how wonderful quick sauces are and
Right.
how flavorful and how gourmet they are.
Sure.
So my grandmother, even though she had to work and made quick sauce, it was always delicious. My nanas, who sauce sat on the stove all weekend long with the gravy, the meatballs, the sausages, the brioches. That was something else too.
Oh, the brajol. That was the favorite part of every sauce. Is there was always two brajols in there, and as soon as the sauce made it to the table, and they separate all the meat. Everyone hung around, separated the meat to find out where the brajol was going to lay, because that was like the best.
Yep. So I'm taking these shrimp out.
Yep.
And you can see they're nicely done. And again, took no time. Now you can actually leave these in the pan, but I like to take them out.
Okay.
Then I'm going to take my tomatoes, add my tomatoes. And then add my wine. And then add the oregano and the parsley. Then I'm going to mix this all up. And I'm going to turn the heat up. And let that go. That'll render down a little bit. I'm going to throw my spaghetti in. And for the spaghetti, you want to time it 9 minutes. I've got 3 left on the muffins. Oh, individual great.
You might as well just keep calling it muffin. We're fine with it.
Okay, I'm gonna put this on 9 minutes. Okay, and make sure this is all.
Nice and al dente.
Sorry.
Nice and
Yeah.
al dente. You don't want that thing squishy.
Yes, it will be al dente.
So what I noticed, you are like me. You do not break spaghetti.
I don't what?
You don't break the spaghetti.
No. No, that's a sin.
It is a sin.
It's a sin because you have to twirl it.
Yeah.
You have to twirl it on a spoon. You never cut your spaghetti and you never break it in half before you put Mike.
I was making that. I was making that point because I married a non-Italian, and the first time she did that, I had a fit. I'm there. What are you doing? But with the children, it was easier when you made spaghetti for them to break it when they were little. But
That's
I
true.
felt it was easier, but I felt you didn't do any justice because you didn't learn any twirling techniques. It's like, I'm sorry, you do not need a spoon to twirl spaghetti. I don't know where it comes from. Every time they stick a food in the plate, and then what's that for? I just need a fork. And he says, well, that's for twirling your spaghetti. And I says, well, you just do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But have you ever do you use a spoon to twirl your spaghetti?
No, I have done it though.
Okay. See, that's how I eat my spaghetti.
Yeah.
And it keeps things nice and neat that you're not, like this and then pulling up a whole bit of spaghetti and twirling. Kind of keeps things in control.
I'm with you on the neatness. It's just that I was brought up for my naughty. My mother's mother was naughty as well. And she says, you do not use a spoon. I'm going to show you how to do it.
Love it.
I tell you, grandmothers are the best. If you're going to learn any kind of traditions at all, you learn from your grandmothers. And I was blessed to have a very Italian grandmother that showed me a lot. Like I said, she had me convinced everyone had raviolis for Thanksgiving.
Raviolis are a whole different thing.
That's a lot of work.
I've never made them.
Oh, yeah, it's incredible the drying time. I mean, she fed, 20 something of us, and she had a king size bed. She'd have the sheet on the bed to dry them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an all day affair.
Oh, it is, and it's an art. It really is. And again, with the provinces, so many different ways to do it. My first boyfriend was Italian. My only Italian boyfriend, I have to say, found them to be a bit possessive. But don't tell my relatives that.
No, never.
But it's funny because his mother, I forget exactly where they were from. I'd have to think about that. But she put raisins in her raviolis. And I can remember going over there for dinner. And my mother and Nana made the raviolis. And I remember taking a bite into them and going, what is this? Raisins and raviolis? It was a sin. It was like, and it really, it was like, and not that it is, but it made it sweet. It just gave it a different flavor that I wasn't used to. And I was like, 18. So I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah, I was, like I said, it was also an honor if she asked you to help. And that's one thing my grandmother never did was ask for any help. She did.
Oh, yeah.
She was in a good mood. She wasn't overtired. And yeah, you'd help. She'd teach you how to roll. She'd teach you how to stuff, teach you how to crip it.
Yeah.
Oh, I had so much fun. It was the best time.
I'll tell you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so this is coming together nicely. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, nice and red. Looks beautiful.
Smells wonderful. And the spaghetti is coming right along, as you can see. Maybe. For 5 more minutes. Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. These look really good. I'm going to take these out. And I'm going to put them right over here. Shut the oven off. These beautiful.
Oh yeah, hold them up a little bit. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, very nice.
Yeah. And they smell great. Absolutely. Very nice. And you see that recipe is perfect for a dozen.
Yep. It's almost like you planned that.
Sorry?
It's almost like you planned that.
Oh, now while the sauce is rendering down, I've got the last item on the menu, Caprese Towers. As you can see here, I have my pound of mozzarella in a block, 2 beefsteak tomatoes, fresh basil, which I put this up to my brother's nose and I said, quick, what does this remind you of? Mom's got it. Oh, not on, as we'd say. And balsamic glaze, which is beautiful. So what we're going to do here is build the tower. Okay. And then for the tomatoes, you want to, I want to say maybe 3 slices of the tomatoes. And the smaller ends, actually, can be put aside and you can snack on those.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Actually, I think I'm gonna cut this one a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, let me check on the pasta. Oh no, the spaghetti. Geez, I'm really messing up today, aren't I?
Oh, it's your political correctness kicking in.
Oh, after years, honestly.
Yeah, we're always having macaroni. I try to tell that to my kids. We have macaroni. Says ziti's. Well, it's macaroni. Well, we have ziti, we have a penny, we have an elbows, we have a shells. It's macaroni. I don't know. Macaroni.
The fusilli. Now the fusilli, the correct fusilli, is not the corkscrew. It's like spaghetti, but like this.
Yes.
So it's long.
Yep.
And it's like that.
It's like a twisted ribbon almost. Thin.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now my spaghetti's almost done. So when that's done, I'm going to put it right in the pan with the sauce. See, I mean, how quick is this? It's like, right?
Yeah, here we are. We're 38 minutes into it. And
Yeah.
we're going to be sitting down and eat before the show's over.
Yeah.
So on the pasta, do you usually strain it into a strainer or do you pull it out? Do you?
I do. Right here?
The old school of pasta.
Yep. Right here. And the time is letting me know it's done. You want to be very careful when you do this.
Absolutely.
And then you drain it, let the water come off, and then just throw it in the pan.
Perfect.
And then you just want to cover it. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I'm in heaven. I am in heaven. I could eat Italian every day, morning, noon, and night.
Yeah, you get no argument out of me for that.
I'm going to turn this down a little bit because you don't want the spaghetti to burn, because this is not a heavy sauce. And again, you can use this with any kind of crustacean. So back to the caprese salads. You want to start off with the biggest tomato slice on the bottom. And then keep this dry. You don't want really soggy mozzarella. And then slice, and it all depends on how big your mozzarella block is. You know, you can put 2. Can you see that good,
Oh,
Mike?
can you pull it back onto the cutting table? There you go.
Like this?
Oh,
How's that?
just missing it. Put it right in between the tomatoes. Put one plate in between the tomatoes.
One plate in between the two. Oh,
There you go.
oh,
Right front. Pull it
like
back
this?
right to keep going. And bring it closer to you on top of the cutting board. There you go.
how's that? All
Good.
right.
Better.
So, okay, great. Yeah, I'm going to have to work on that. So this size looks like 2 slices of mozzarella. Work pretty good.
Yep.
But you see how simple that is, right?
That is easy.
Yeah. And then you top it. Okay. Then what you're going to do is actually need a little corner of this. You want to make ribbons from your basil. And, you know, dried basil can work in a pinch, but nothing like fresh basil. And then you just want to, you know, slice it like that. I don't know if you can see that,
Yep.
but you're not chopping it, you're making ribbons.
Right.
Just slicing it across. And you don't need a whole lot because if it's fresh, it's very flavorful. But I really like basil. So I use it a lot. I'm gonna check on the spaghetti. That's looking pretty good. Put this in here. Can you see this?
Yep. I can see it.
You can see, kind of did. Definitely stuck a little bit. So you have to really keep a watch on it. Keep stirring. Pick up. Okay. Now, you can see that. I'm going to put these over here. Put this like this. How's that?
That looks fantastic.
Great. Now this is so beautiful. You can bring this right to the table like that.
Right. Yep.
And we'll add the shrimp. Top it with the shrimp. Now, of course, you could keep everything in one pan, but this way, you know, especially if you're serving more than 2 people, that everyone's going to get a nice amount of the shrimp. And again, this was, I may have said 1.5 pounds. This was 2 pounds.
Okay.
And then you just want to drizzle what's left.
Oh, get all
Because
that
that's
garlic in there.
spicy heaven. That
Yes,
is
it is.
beautiful. Okay. Okay, so that's that. And then we have our Caprese Towers. Now this glaze, right? I don't know if you know how they make it.
No, I don't.
They actually cook it and render it down vinegar until it gets nice and syrupy. And you'll see how this just drizzles out. Woo! So you see that? You can make
Yep.
a nice little design. And again, my baking skills have a lot to be desired. But this balsamic reduction, it's made with balsamic vinegar. It is wonderful. So, and you want to put a good amount on the plate. And then you drizzle, you top
There
with
you go.
your basil ribbons. How's that?
That looks fantastic.
Is that good? That's that. Now, we will take a couple of muffins out. Oh, and there I go again. Oh, I mean individual grape cakes.
That's it. Individual grape cakes. Now,
Oh,
could you make that into one big cake?
you could. You could. But here's the thing.
Yep.
As you know, the Italians, they like to sit and savor and draw things out. And so this is a nice little cake, and the serving size, it's perfect, especially if you think spaghetti, macaroni might be a little heavy. This this is a great way to end a meal. And again, it's not going to be overly sweet because of the wine.
Right.
And even if you use a sweet wine, it will not be as sweet as your typical sweet cake.
Now, is this a type of dessert that you would like, right, after your main course, you'd sit and relax a little bit before you have it and then have it with coffee and tea? Or are you still having your wine from dinner and the dessert comes right after? How would you go about serving?
I would serve it with, it would all depend on what my guests would prefer, but coffee would always be on the table. If they wanted tea, most definitely. But also, you know, your Italian liqueurs,
Yep.
you could have Galliano in a set, just, you know, little, I've got those. In fact, I should have brought them out. I've got crystal glasses, wine glasses, and they go from here to here to here, and they graduate in size for that reason.
Right.
So you can be sitting and having a nice coffee, and these days with your Keurigs, I do a shot of espresso every morning with a 6-ounce cup of Lavazza, which is the espresso shot. So I do a shot and a 6-ounce of that, and that's like woo. So even a little shot of espresso is perfect.
Right.
So, and always wine. Wine's always on the table.
Sure. So this dessert, I would assume. So, all right, let's say you're making this meal for the gathering, not in quarantine, and you were having your house guests and whatever.
Yeah.
When I'm going to assume when you're serving dinner, the dessert table's already made and ready to go, and people are just gonna come and grab it when they're ready for their dessert. As far as a family setting, you know, I can see it, and I know how dessert always ran in my family. was, all right, after dinner, you cleaned everything up, wiped everything down, got everything sparkling. I mean, even the dining room and the overflow, the kids' tables, everything would sparkle. And then they would dress it again, bring out the dessert, bring out the coffees, bring out some leftovers to pick on, and
Absolutely.
it would stay there the rest of the night.
Absolutely. And that's how it was done.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
this,
I mean, if you want to lay it out, you have different desserts. You can put it on a buffet table. They can come and grab what they want, get back to the table. Or, like you said, lay everything out on the table and just sit for hours. And that's when the bonding happens. That's when the stories come out,
yep.
you
And,
know.
that, and that's when my uncle's time to say, all right, I'm done. I can't stand these kids anymore. It's time to go.
Absolutely.
But by that time too, dessert was a thing for the adults. The kids were off doing their own thing, playing games, or especially around the holidays. The kids had maybe their ice cream or their cupcakes, their little cute little kids sweet things. But the adults, they gathered. That's where the adult conversation. They didn't want the little ones around.
Always, always. And that's when you went out for hours.
Right.
You didn't have to come back until it was either dark or dinner time.
Street light, yeah, dinner time. You had your two times. You had dinner time, you had the street light.
Yep. Sometimes a dinner bell, if one of your friends' house had a dinner bell and your parents would ring the dinner bell, you heard the bell, you had to go running home.
Yeah, and I always knew in our neighborhood, you look at it now, it was probably about a 4-block area. Everyone could always hear their mother no matter where you were. When they called, you got right back there.
It's true. It's true. I am serving a nice Pinot Grigio with this meal.
And again, okay, so here you go. The shrimp is the main portion. Seafood, you stick with a white, but you also serve a gravy. You could get away with a red.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, I think we said this last week. These days, anything goes. You want to drink red wine with seafood, go for it.
Right. Now, is the Pinot a dry wine? I'm not a wine person. I don't know. So you're sticking with your dry wines.
Woo!
Yeah. I was going to say, that must be really hot.
Oh, I don't think that was smart.
Now, what's the temperature? Is the temperature right where you want it? You wanted it in the middle?
It's in between medium spice and spicy at 2.5 teaspoons. And it's got a kick, but it's not so hot that I have to drown my mouth. That commercial that you see with the car?
Oh, yeah.
And they're going all over, and it's like every place is hotter, hotter, hotter. It is. It becomes like an addiction.
Yeah. And I know
spicy food.
And I know plenty of people that just love I mean, I got friends that have these Facebook groups dedicated to hot sauce. And every week they'll talk about one, and everyone's trying to melt each other's faces off for some reason. And I don't find that enjoyable. I like a little spice. I want to enjoy it. When I make my chili, I like it that you eat and say, oh, this isn't bad. And then all of a sudden, here it comes. It builds up and says, oh, that's tingly. And then it goes away until the next one.
Yeah.
So that's how I enjoy it. But I don't think I could put in, the 4 tablespoons of that. I don't think I could do that.
Not 4. That's why I went 2.5, and you saw me. It's spicy.
Yeah.
I love dropping some Tabasco in my chowder.
Sure. Now,
clam chowder.
let me ask you with the individual grape cakes.
Yes.
Anything could go with it? Could you
Anything.
Throw an a la mode? Could you do a?
You could.
What do you think? What do you think that is? Because those must still be nice and warm. Would you eat them right now?
They are. They're beautiful.
Yeah,
So you could serve it with ice cream,
yeah.
whipped cream, mascarpone.
Mascarpone, sure,
Uh,
absolutely. You could drizzle some
yeah,
sauce on it, some fudge
yeah,
sauce, or
yeah,
yeah, oh yeah. So
absolutely,
many things to make this your own. So this is very basic meal, very popular meal,
absolutely.
but you can always do things to make it your own.
That's right. And special because, like we said earlier, this quarantine is has allowed families to spend more family time together.
Right.
I know when I was growing up, we didn't have the internet. Kids didn't have 12 activities plus their homework like kids do
Exactly.
today.
Yeah.
We sat down, and well, in fact, breakfast, dinner, we'd be at school for lunch. But I know when I was raising Chelsea, dinner was the main meal. She always had a breakfast before she went off to school. And of course, on the weekends, the three meals.
Sure.
But we always, dinner was our special time where, you talked about how the day was, what went on, and what's coming up for the night and the next day. And when you have a meal this good and this simple, I mean, and then all those little helpers in your kitchen, right? How
Right.
great is that? I mean, one of my
I agree
favorite
with you.
dishes is stuffed calamari, and in the calamari, you stuff it with fresh seafood, shrimp and scallops, raw, chopped with spices,
Yep.
and bite-sized calamari. You stuff it with this stuffing. It'll take you 2 hours to do it. Chelsea was like 4 helping me do this. But I'll tell you what, you cook it, you pop it in your mouth, it's like a party
Right.
because it's just amazing. But
So
again, it's that bonding time.
right. So here we are, parents, kids of the same age. We had the bonding meal times, no internet, all that good stuff. Our kids grew up with the internet, busy
Yeah.
schedules. We didn't have the set dinner time. We didn't, everyone sat at the table, wash their hands first, go to the, all right. And as soon as you sit down, mom is laying the plates out.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Now, these kids today never had it. Some of these parents may never have had it, the younger parents, and now they're doing it. And
Yeah.
I would hope out of this quarantine, that would be another good thing that could come out of this is the family
Absolutely.
dinner.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep,
Maybe
for
people
sure.
taking a chance to slow down because now they're like, oh, well, everyone's on the computer. I mean, people got, the kids, the parents are working from home. Everyone's on the computer, bandwidth. Everyone's fighting over bandwidth now. Uh, they're looking forward to getting off the computer and actually sitting there and having some personal interaction.
It's so true. Going out for a walk,
Right, right.
just to get out of the house and breathe some fresh air. I mean, how often did you have a chance to do that?
Sure. Sure. I mean,
It's
I feel bad for
yeah.
kids that didn't experience like what I did. My sister always, we all had our assigned seats,
Oh yes.
everyone sat
Oh
in the same
yes.
spot. And my sister would always steal from me because she sat next to me. And she'd always have a fork into my plate, grabbing
Yep.
something.
Yep.
And, it might have been annoyed at the time, but God, I missed that time. It was so much fun. We had
Absolutely.
a blast.
Yep. Yep.
All
Yep.
right, so let's do it. We got a minute and a half left. Give us the rundown of this meal and take us out of here. So,
Okay, so towers. Then we will go into our shrimp Fra Diavolo and finish off with our individual grape cakes. So with this, I want to toast HCAM because we love you. Here's to HCAM. Woo! And look forward to next time, next week. And have a
any
great.
preview of what you got for next week? You know yet?
Um, I'm thinking it's going to be kind of like a Tex-Mex thing.
Ooh, all right. That's a nice little tease. Let's not give
Yeah,
everything away.
no.
All right.
But yeah, come right along. And guys, this weekend is Memorial Day weekend, so I
Yep.
want to wish everybody a happy, safe holiday. and good food, good family, and good times.
All right. Thank you, Terry. Goodbye.
See ya next time. Music, music, music. Yay.